of having Dr. Kathy Yawingu. I hope I pronounced her name right. Please forgive me if I did not. But we're delighted to have Dr. Kathy in, who will be sharing with us today on the topic Recharged, Unleashing Your Power from Sleep. And I have a brief bio here about Dr. Kathy. I will uh, I will read just a bit of it. You will hear more about her as we go on through the program. Dr. Kathy is a practicing physician at St. Francis Hospital in Hartford, Connecticut. She's a board certified in internal medicine, rheumatology, and board eligible for the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. She is an assistant professor at the University of Connecticut and enjoys teaching residents and fellows in training. She completed medical school at Upstate Medical College in Syracuse, New York, residency at Winthrop University in Long Island, then finished her training as a fellow of rheumatology at University of Pennsylvania. She is an active health advocate in her community and often volunteers her time at local health fairs, teaching and ministering to underserved population. She enjoys serving as a missionary physician in remote places. It was while volunteering in the Solomon Islands of the South Pacific that she met her husband, Max. She is the mother of 4 boys and has so far been successful in raising them on a plant-based diet. That's news for you, Eddie. She is also deeply touched by the difficulties faced by the less fortunate in our society. As such, she often visits homeless shelters and distributes food to the folks who live in the shelter. Dr. Kathy takes her boys with her to participate in these outreach and by doing so, teaching them at an early age to have compassion and serve the less fortunate and underserved. Dr. Kathy is passionate about the transforming effect of positive lifestyle changes. As a result, she has created a growing social media platform to educate and empower families and individuals to make happier choices, one step at a time and one plate at a time. She maintains an active wellness blog where she shares her favorite plant-based recipes and gives practical tips about transforming healthy choices into everyday choices. One last thing, you can find her at www.wellnessmom.com. I hope I said that correctly. In her personal time, she loves to cook new plant-based dishes, hike new trails, and play with her kids. A mouthful about Dr. Kathy. Eddie, I'm going to ask you to pray. After you pray, the next voice you will hear is that of Dr. Kathy and Yomingo.
It is my pleasure to invite the Holy Spirit in at this time. Let's bow our heads. Father, thank you so much for the opportunity we have to invite and empower your spirit to do more for us than you ever have before. I thank you for our doctor friend who is allowing herself to be used by your spirit. And may we all be blessed as a result. Touch her lips with a live coal from the altar. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
You're on mute.
Okay, amen. Awesome. I'm so happy to be here with everybody this beautiful Sabbath day where we can talk about how we can be healthier, and better the way the master designer intended. All right. So today,
no, I'm joined. Yeah, I left, but I'm
sorry. I'm sorry, Kathy. I muted you. I'm sorry, by accident. I muted you. I'm sorry.
So, all right. All right. So today we're gonna be talking about We're going to be talking about sleep, and this is a big one for many of us because sleep, oh my goodness, sleep, it doesn't come easy for some of us, and also we may not realize just how important sleep is for us to be our healthiest self. So the topic today is recharged, because we need to be recharged, unleashing the power that we can get from sleep. All right. So first of all, I want us to just realize the fact that in our culture, we often do not estimate the real value of sleep. We actually think that sleep many times is for people who are lazy. We actually feel good. We feel good when we can say that we didn't even need to sleep that much. Hopefully you can see my slide here. Just let me know if you can see it. Marcel, can you see the slide?
Yes, we're good, Kathy.
Okay, great. So sleep is terribly important. A conscious limiting of sleep. It's seen as inconvenience. Who has time for sleep? I remember when I was in medical school and I had so much work to do, I would really think, man, if I only didn't have to sleep, I would get work done. And I know I'm not the only one. Many folks feel the same way. Sleep just gets in the way. And we actually put a badge of strength, and we equate it with superiority if we sleep less. Oh, I only slept 5 hours. And we think of those people as, wow, they're like superhuman. They don't have to sleep much at all. But really, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. And I want to review with everyone today. I want to review with you why we sleep, what happens when we sleep, so we or sleep on a pedestal and really respect the fact that we need more sleep. Okay, so why do we sleep? We sleep to survive, right? Rats normally live for about 2 to 3 years. But if rats are severely sleep deprived, they live for only 3 weeks. They have a drastic reduction in lifespan. And they found that these rats that were sleep deprived ended up with a decreased immune system. They began to get sores on their paws, and they began to lose weight and just look real unhealthy. And then they just died. They couldn't tell exactly why these rats died, but because there was no clear organ damage, but they became very unhealthy and they died in a very short period of time. Or nerves that are within our brain and all throughout our spinal cord and within our body, the nerves repair and rejuvenate when we sleep. You see, during sleep, the nerves get a chance to clean up byproducts of regular cellular activity, and they get to increase synapses and connections. And when we don't sleep and they don't get to do that rejuvenation, the nerves, we end up feeling real drowsy. We can't concentrate. We don't have peak physical performance. And some of us, when we're sleep deprived, even hallucinate and have horrible mood swings. Many times when you don't get enough sleep, you just start snapping at everybody because you're so sleep deprived. Sleeping is vital for growth. During sleep, we release growth hormone, and children grow more when they sleep. The body gets a chance to increase production of certain proteins when we are in deep sleep. And these proteins are the building blocks for cell growth, and they help to repair from stress, help repair from ultraviolet rays damage. So your skin gets to get a nice, makeover. When you sleep, it's deep sleep equals beauty sleep. Sleeping helps us to stabilize our mood and to improve learning. The area of the brain that controls emotions and decision making and our social interaction, that part of the brain actually has very decreased activity during deep sleep because it's almost offloading. It's kind of like getting a chance to just settle down and get the emotions and the just the way we feel and behave can calm down and kind of get to an equilibrium while we sleep. It helps us to maintain optimal emotional and social functioning while we're awake. In rats, we can see that there are certain nerve signaling paths that are generated during the daytime. They actually repeat themselves during sleep. So while you're sleeping, you're almost repeating the patterns that you learned throughout the day. So if you're a student, if you're studying a lot, sleep is so important for you to keep those memories in the right track in your brain. It also is very good for helping to control weight. Weight is a big problem in our westernized society. More than 1/3 of us are overweight. But if we got more sleep, we would weigh less. How is that possible? Well, there are certain hormones that are released during sleep, leptin and human growth hormone. They both are increased during sleep, and leptin helps to suppress appetite, so you don't feel so hungry. And the human growth hormone, it converts fat to fuel, which helps us lose weight. And, if we think about it, when we stay up late at night, what do? We get the munchies and we start to eat more. And so studies have clearly shown the less you sleep, the more you weigh. So that's a very good reason to go to bed. Sleep is essential for life. And yet, over the past 100 years, the sleep of most people has gone down by 20% or more. Our country is in a chronic state of sleep deprivation. And it isn't only the US, it's a global issue now because guess what? Everybody is just now so much more busy and has so many more devices. We are all sleeping less. So, what is sleep deprivation? Well, it is when we don't obtain adequate total sleep. And insufficient sleep adversely affects how the body functions. You may think, well, I don't think I'm sleep deprived, really. But let me ask you this question. If you feel drowsy during the day, during something that's not so exciting, you probably are not getting enough sleep. If you routinely fall asleep in the sermon, you are sleep deprived. If you just sit there and just without any stimulation, you just doze off, you are sleep deprived. And so this widespread practice of burning the candle at both ends in our Western industrialization is really leading to a very poor state of health, sleep deprivation, and this is not normal. We are not functioning at our best when we are doing this. Some folks think, and I've heard it said so many times, well, my body adapts. I don't need lots of sleep. I'm used to it now. We never adapt to getting less sleep. We may get used to having less sleep, but or functioning or judgment or reaction time will always be impaired. So if we just slept more, we would be so much more efficient, effective, and productive than sleeping less. Many studies show that when folks are sleep deprived, it leads to a lot of accidents. When they put sleep deprived persons in a driver simulator test, they function as badly or worse than somebody who's drunk. Sleep deprivation is serious business. And if somebody is sleep deprived and drinks alcohol on top of that, oh no, big problems. They are even more impaired than the alcohol could ever do to them. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration shows that driver fatigue is responsible for over 100,000 motor vehicle accidents and 1,500 deaths each year. This is so preventable if we just got more sleep. And often we think that if I just get some caffeine or some stimulant, that will keep me going. But really, that's not the answer. You know, it may keep you focused for a little bit, but it is not going to prevent you from being a drowsy driver. Many night shift accidents have happened because of this lack of sleep. Some of you may remember Exxon Valdez oil spill in Alaska. That was linked to just long shifts of working and not getting enough sleep. The Chernobyl nuclear power plant accident in Ukraine, also linked to shift work, where individuals were so tired, working beyond their shift duties, and that led to accidents. And also, it is well known that medical interns working night shift are twice as likely than others to misinterpret hospital test records. I know when I was an intern working the night shift, I got through it, but I was never as sharp at night as I was in the day. So we have to be very cognizant of this. So you may say, okay, I got it. I need more sleep. But actually, how much sleep do I need is the question. All right, I'm going to tell you. If you have an infant, a little baby that's just born, they need the most sleep. They need about 17 hours of sleep a day, and that's what they usually get. For our young children, like our 3 to 5 year olds, you know, that's your preschool age, they need a lot of sleep. They need at least 10 hours of sleep every night, or that theirs can be broken up with naps. That's why they take a lot of day naps, or they should take day naps. If you're a teenager, and for those of us that have teenagers, my oldest just became a teenager last week, so now I'm in that new phase of life. When we have teenagers, we need to remind them that they need lots of sleep too. Teenagers need 10 hours of sleep a night. And are many teenagers getting that? No. Teenagers don't realize that to continue the growth and the peak performance, they should be getting 10 hours of sleep. And so that's where we come in, to remind our teenagers that we got to get to bed. We got to turn the devices off. We got to close up that book and get to bed. They perform better, have better, more stable moods when they sleep. So then what about adults? You know, most of us here are adults, and you might be saying, so how much sleep do I need? Well, adults need about 8 hours of sleep a night. And I know many of you don't want to hear that. You're like, who has time to sleep 8 hours? But that's what your body needs. 7 to 9 hours every single day is what your body needs for peak performance. Even into older age, 70s, 80s, that's how much sleep is needed. In the sleep cycle, we go through various stages. You know, we have stage 1, where we're just kind of drowsy. Stage 2 is light sleep. Stage 3 is moderate, you know, deep-ish kind of sleep. And stage 4 is your deep sleep. And then stage 5 is REM, rapid eye movement. And when we sleep, we tend to go through all these 5 cycles every single night, going into deep sleep, moving to lighter sleep, going back through the cycle. And that's just a normal sleep pattern. It's important for us to understand that the circadian rhythm is what is built into us to help our bodies know what to do at the right time of day. The circadian rhythm is just refers to the regular changes in our body that occur in the course of the day. Circadian is Latin for around the clock. Your body is designed to perform in certain ways throughout the 24-hour span. And what I find so amazing is that this clock is controlled by a little teeny tiny little guy in your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or the SCN. That's your biologic clock that controls all the functions in your body. And here's a picture of the suprachiasmatic nucleus. In this picture here, You see the circle, that little tiny guy there, like no bigger than a pinhead. That is what controls all the functions. And how does it do this? It depends on light source. Now you see, when light comes through your eyes, it sends signals to the clock in your brain, the SCN, the suprachiasmatic nucleus. And when that little clock, when that super giant clock gets the light input, it sends information to the rest of your brain and to your body about what needs to start taking place. It sends signals to organs to say, okay, increase this hormone, okay, decrease that hormone, open up this valve, close up that valve. It kind of coordinates everything. And it all really has its crux on light coming through the eyes and giving it signals. And that's going to be very important as we continue to talk some more. So here is just a picture of the circadian rhythm and the sleep cycle. And one thing that I want to point out is that at 9 o'clock, 2100 hours, is when melatonin starts to release. Now you may say, okay, what is melatonin? Melatonin is the sleep hormone. It helps, it has many functions, but one of the primary ones is to help you get into good sleep. It not only does that, but it also helps as an antioxidant to fight off free radicals in your body, fight off cancer cells and the bad guys that want to clog up your arteries and lead to disease. It functions as an appetite suppressant. And it really is the type of hormone that you want to maximize in your system. So your body naturally starts to release melatonin at around 9 o'clock at night, and then the melatonin starts to decrease by morning hours. Now, because of this biological activity, I like to encourage folks to go to bed at 9. Why 9? At least 9 o'clock, because you want to catch every single minute of melatonin secretion. And when you are not in bed by 9 and you're getting lots of light stimulation through your eyes to the SCN, you know what the SCN tells the body? Hold up, there is light coming through the eyes. Shut down melatonin. It is not time to sleep. And so what happens? Your body is just waiting and waiting for your eyes to close, for the light to stop coming through, so it can tell the body, okay, now rev it up. But guess what? You've already lost hours of melatonin secretion that you could have gained if we just went to bed by 9. So I know that many folks, they try to go to bed before midnight. That's way too late. We need to be in bed by 9 o'clock p.m. for maximal health, maximal melatonin secretion, maximal utilization of that sleep hormone. Now, the Bible tells us so many things about sleep and how important it is for us to get restful, peaceful sleep. Psalm 4 verse 8 says, in peace I will lie down and sleep. For you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety. God wants us to have peaceful, restful sleep, and refreshing rest is going to bed in harmony with your circadian rhythm. The sleep-wake cycle determined by day and night, which allows the release of hormones that promote deep sleep. We will get deeper, more restorative sleep when we start to go to bed on time. Now, I like to say this phrase here: how you sleep at night has everything to do with how you spend your day. Many of us listening say, well, I'd love to get more sleep, but I just can't sleep. I just cannot sleep. Sleeping well is not just when you get into the bed. It depends on every single choice you made throughout the day. And we're going to talk about that. So how can we get better sleep? How can we really enjoy good rest, release that power from sleep that we know is there to help us feel better, look better, and perform better? Well, there's something called sleep hygiene. And that is just adopting behavior that can help to promote good sleep. And one of those sleep hygiene techniques is to maintain a regular sleep routine. Now, what does that mean? It means picking a time and going to bed at that same time every night and waking up at the same time every morning. Ideally, you don't want to have your schedule changed by more than about 20 minutes every day. So my time that I pick is 9 p.m. So if I get to bed 20 minutes before, 20 minutes after, that's not too bad, but I shouldn't be getting to bed at 10 or 10:30. That's not good to maintain a sleep schedule. And I'm going to be honest with you, going to bed on time requires preparation and mindfulness. You got to think about it. You got to prepare for it. You got to plan for it. It just doesn't happen like that. Especially if you have a couple of children, or if you're a really busy person with a lot of things to do, or you have many commitments, or, if you just tend to get distracted. You have to be mindful and make choices that will help you get to bed on time. It's also important to keep your bed as your sanctuary. Keep it for two things, to sleep and for sex. That's what your bed is for. And that will help your brain connect the bed with just those things. When we start to watch TV in bed, or use the computer in bed, or read in bed, then when we try to fall asleep, sometimes our eyes are like boing, wide open because our brain is connecting the bed with other things. So to help train your mind to sleep when you're in the bed, we need to keep the bed just for those two things. Also, we have to be mindful of the fact that when we use devices or watch TV in bed, we get a certain light spectrum. That's the blue light spectrum from the screen that actually affects our circadian rhythm very negatively. Because when we have blue light coming through our eyes to our suprachiasmatic nucleus, that tells that biological clock it's not time to sleep. Blue light means awake, awake. You want to be on a red light spectrum, where when your brain sees red light, that gives it a better cue that, okay, it's about time to go to sleep. 1 hour before bed, we should start shutting off our lights or dimming them and turning all our devices onto the night light mode. That will turn it to the red light spectrum. I do that with my devices. My phone, when the sun sets, it goes to night mode and the screen doesn't look so bright. It looks kind of dull and red. My laptop, when the sun sets, no matter what time of the year it is, the laptop knows when it's sunset. And when the sun sets, it switches to like a red light mode. That helps my SCN, suprachiasmatic nucleus, know that it's almost time to go to bed. We're going to start preparing the internal organs. We want to minimize and eliminate bedroom noise and lights. Light blocking curtains can be very helpful to help block out the bright lights from the street. The street lights coming in through your window is going to really affect you trying to go to sleep. Your neighbor's bright spotlight is going to affect you trying to go to sleep. And so light blocking curtains work very well. Also, your alarm clock, just that bright, time on the alarm clock can throw off your sleep. Remove all digital devices, turn them around, cover them up. You don't want any lights coming into your eyes. Remember, it's sending signals through your eyes to your SCN. Turn off the TV. It's not a good habit to watch TV in bed. Just turn it off. And if you're having a hard time falling asleep, you could try something like background white noise. That can be helpful. A fan and the radio station on an off channel, or your phone can probably play white noise. that can help with sleep. And even putting on nightshades. You know, if you just can't block the light out, put on nightshades and earplugs, and that can help you. What other ways can you increase your sleep or help yourself to sleep more sound and more deeply? Well, we said what you do in the day determines how you sleep at night. And one thing you want to do in the day is go outside. When you go outside and get sunlight, that helps you to boost your melatonin. When you go outside and exercise increases melatonin production by 300%. That's some deep sleep right there. So going outside in the sunshine, exercising outside, those are key ways to help with your sleep. And we spoke before about melatonin. It helps with your mood, your appetite, your sleep, and it helps to fight cancer. It is a powerful antioxidant. Other things we can do are really simple, but so effective. When we look at the physiology of sleep, I want you to know that the internal organs, they're ready to shut down. They're ready to just take it easy, turn down. They've been working all day and they want to go into repair and restore mode. So the blood within our bodies shunts or moves or shifts to the periphery. So we have less blood circulation in the core and more of it in the periphery, in the arms and in the legs. Now, this just helps the inner core organs kind of just, kind of wind down, push the blood to kind of stay in the periphery. And so we have what we call vasodilation. The vessels within your peripheries, your arms and your legs, open up to contain more blood. Now, you can do things to help with peripheral vasodilation. That just means opening up your vessels in your arms and your legs. Simple things like taking a warm shower helps you dilate your vessels peripherally and shunt the blood from the core. Things like wearing warm socks help sleep better. When you have cold feet, you have vasoconstriction. When your feet are cold exposure makes your blood vessels tighten up, close up, and then it sends blood to the core. That's not what your body wants to do. So you want to keep yourself warm, put on blankets, socks. I wear nice wool socks every night because that helps keep my feet warm. Warm shower helps. And also drinking adequate water throughout the day. When we are dehydrated, we're in a chronic state of vasoconstriction. Your vessels are just kind of closed up because it's lacking fluid. So it's compensating because we're not drinking water. When we have closed up vessels, vasoconstriction, we're not going to sleep well because the body cannot push the blood to the periphery. So the choices you make in the day affect how we sleep at night. Just drinking adequate water throughout the day. Men, you need about 10 glasses of water a day just to function well. Your pee should be clear or very light yellow. We shouldn't wait to feel thirsty or parched to drink. That's way past dehydration when you went in to be thirsty to drink. We need to keep drinking throughout the day to keep our bodies really at peak performance and to prepare us to sleep at night. How about what we eat? What we eat affects how we sleep. My goodness, it's all connected. When we eat certain foods that have caffeine in them, it really messes up our sleep. Caffeine limits melatonin utilization, and it leads to broken up sleep and difficulty falling asleep. And we want to get that out of our diet. Soda, tea, and chocolate have caffeine. So we don't want to be munching on those things or drinking those things throughout the day. Not typical herbal teas, but the green teas, the black teas, I do not recommend those for health. Yes, they have some benefits. They have some nice polyphenols. They do have some good qualities, but I am not a proponent of caffeine for health in any way, shape, or form. And so I do not recommend black tea, green tea, chocolate, because it does other things. And one of them is it messes up our sleep. Alcohol is known as a nightcap, right? It helps you to fall asleep fast. But guess what? You never get into true REM sleep. You get poor quality sleep with alcohol. So I do not recommend alcohol for sleep. And we should really avoid that toxin because it really is a toxin and not intended for health. We should not eat late at night. When we eat late at night, the poor tummy, it says, oh man, I was just about to rest. And here comes this food. I gotta start working again. It really affects how we sleep. We can't sleep, we can't get into deep sleep with a full tummy. So you wanna stop eating 3 to 4 hours before bedtime. And we should not even snack at night. And eating more complex carbs helps you sleep more deeply. Complex carbs in the plant family kingdom are things like your yams, your natural food from the earth that God has given us to eat has the things in there for us to sleep. God put it all in there. When you eat complex carbs, you get higher tryptophan, higher serotonin, deeper sleep. You want to eat those foods earlier in the day and really use God's food to help us to sleep better. I recommend a whole food plant-based diet. I love it for everything, including better sleep. And less food combinations does go a far way. When we have our big salad, we need to have a big salad every single day, right? 3 cups of greens at least every day is important for good health. When we have our vegetables and our complex carbs, our yams or potatoes or dasheen or yellow yam, all those wonderful things, and we have God's wonderful protein or peas or beans or lentils, when you eat those foods, it does help you with deeper sleep, more resounding sleep. So just to quickly review what we said so far, we need to maintain regular sleep routine. Our body thrives on a schedule, on regularity. That's how we were designed. And that's what will help us get better sleep. Use the bed for sleep and sex. We're training our brains to know what to do in the bed. Eliminate or minimize bedroom noise and lights. Increase sunlight. Get outside. Increase exercise every day. At least 150 minutes of exercise every week is what we need at baseline, the minimum for health. Take a warm bath or shower if you need. Avoid caffeine and alcohol, and no late night eating. Those are crucial. It's also very important, I didn't discuss this before, but a lot of us, we are up late because we're worried. We're stressed out. We are thinking about what happened in the day, what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen next week, what's going to happen next year. And we are keeping ourselves awake by worrying. But we really, as people of faith, we really need to put the worries aside, minimize our stress, and allow our bodies and our minds to just rest. I had spoken a little before about preparing to go to bed on time. It takes a lot of mindfulness. We need to start settling down at least an hour before bed. In my house, I need to start 2 hours because I have to take care of little kids at night. So I need to start much earlier preparing to go to bed, or else I will not make it to bed on time. So we got to start with our bath, or shower, putting away the work, developing a wind down routine, and really using techniques to de-stress and unwind before bedtime. There's a saying by John Steinbeck, it is a common experience that a problem difficult at night is resolved in the morning after the committee of sleep has worked on it. Many times just going to bed and just stop thinking about it. By the morning time, you have the solution because you got a chance to sleep and your mind can work more efficiently. Something else you may want to consider to get better sleep is cognitive behavioral therapy. That is very useful for insomnia, which is inability to fall asleep. And that should be actually first line before medications. If you cannot fall asleep, when you see your provider, ask about CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, before you reach out and take that prescription. CBT has been shown to have more sustained benefits, less side effects, and it helps train individuals about behavioral modification to get off sleep meds and to do better. And in CBT, you learn sleep hygiene and relaxation therapy. Some folks may want to know, well, what about supplements? You know, supplements can play a role. Melatonin can be found over the counter, and it's really best used for jet lag. That's where it's the most effective. But there are some mixed studies for insomnia. It may be useful in some, not in all. And a dose of around 1 to 6 milligrams may be where you may find yourself lying. Just be careful, though, that if you are on medication, melatonin sometimes can interact with that because it interferes with the P450 cytochrome, and certain drugs also have to be metabolized with that, and so melatonin could cause a problem. So review that with your provider before you start taking it. And the sublingual version of melatonin is shown to be the best, and it doesn't suppress your own melatonin, so that's good news. Other useful herbs for sleep include valerian root. I like that one. It helps to calm you down. It helps to make you more relaxed. Chamomile, or chamomile, that's also useful. And hops. Those are good teas that you could take at night to just help you be more sleepy and to enjoy your sleep a little better. And I want us to remember Proverbs 3, verse 24, that says, when you lie down, you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. We want to allow ourselves to go to bed on time, to remove all our cares and our worries, and allow the medicine of sleep, which God has given to us, to do its magic, to do its work, so we can be the powerful people that our Creator has intended us to be, so we can function better and be our best selves. If you want to find me, these are places that you can find me, so we can talk some more about your sleep and how to get the best sleep possible that's designed for you. All right. Are there any questions?
All right, Dr. Kathy, we have many questions. I don't know if you can see the chat, but these guys have been talking their heads off in the chat all afternoon. So I'm going to try and start at the top. There's a comment. Can you hear me, Kathy?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Dr. Holness asks, my wife said that she read that sleeping with the lights on can increase your risk of insulin resistance. And he also said that's one trend of thought that he is posits. And another one, he says, teenagers need a lot of sleep also. It affects their moods and learning. Schools may need to rethink about changing the early start classes and maybe start later. I'm not so sure about that, because I know in Jamaica we started school early, and I'm sure, I mean, for me, the early mornings are the best hours for me to learn. So I'm just wondering if just to answer Dr. Holness's question, if it would be better to start earlier and finish late and finish earlier. So you can.
He's talking about the United States. There's a problem here because teenagers have second jobs, high school, teenagers. And it's a problem for them getting up so early to go to school.
Okay, possibly partly to get to bed early. Yes, you go ahead, Dr. Kathy.
Yeah, so honestly, I'm not as familiar with the timing for teenagers to go to school, because we homeschool our 4 boys here and I make sure that they get enough sleep. That's for sure. But if we can encourage our teens to go to bed early, I think from my observations that things that keep our teenagers up are mostly devices. And I think that if as adults we can be sure to take the devices away from them when they go into their room, that would be a step in the right direction. I do not believe it's right for teens to have their devices in their bedroom with them, because I don't think they really understand how to turn it off. It's hard enough for us as adults to turn it off, but for a teen, I think it's super hard. And so that's one recommendation I would throw out there for folks to consider, to take the devices away when they go to bed at night so that they can go to sleep. But the earlier they get to bed, the better. And in terms of the light and decrease in insulin resistance, I've never heard of that before. But one thing I can tell you, there is a study to confirm almost any theory that you want to throw out there. And that's why I really like to stick with the basic anatomy and physiology when I am looking at a study. I want to know, okay, how did the master designer create our bodies to work? And does this study fall in line with physiology? Physiology does not change. Basic human physiology does not change. But what can change any day is a scientific report based on what somebody's trying to prove. So I spoke with us
Absolutely.
today about the suprachiasmatic nucleus and how it gets its messages. And that depends largely on light. And when it gets exposed to a lot of light, blue light spectrums, it is telling the body, hold up, don't go to sleep, pause. And so the body does not get a chance to really go into deep sleep, go to fall asleep. So that's why the designer created us with eyelids to have them go down and close when it's time to sleep. So please, every time you review a study, go back to how did the master designer create this? Because I'm telling you, man will always have a theory and a study to prove his interesting theories and philosophies. But we want to go back to the master designer.
Okay, Carlo, I see your hand, but I'm going to take one more question from the chat, and it says, "How does sleep psychologically help reduce our risk of depression, anxiety, mood disorders, and other mental health disorders?"
Oh, it's so important. The connection between sleep and or mood is great. During this COVID-19 pandemic, we saw an increased rate of mental illness. And that was multifactorial. Yes, a lot of it was from just the fear of what was going on, separation from family and loved ones, not seeing people you care about, and a lot of insomnia. Folks could not sleep. They were worried. And with this insomnia came increased depression, anxiety. And we know that the way the brain works, when we go to sleep, the part of our brain that controls emotion kind of gets to it turns down. It turns down so it can repair and fix, and then it comes back up when we wake up. It kind of goes on slow mode or fix it mode. And when we don't sleep, we have a lot worse mood instability. So it's so vital that when we suffer with depression and anxiety, that we strive to sleep. It's hard, but that's something that has to be fixed.
So, doctor, I guess that leads to another question. And Carlo, I see your hand again. So, with people having such difficulty falling asleep, um, it has opened up another pharmacy, so to speak, because people are taking all these medications, all these drugs, in order to sleep. Would you be able to talk about taking those drugs to fall asleep? Um, does that help in getting the required amount of sleep that we need, and then in so doing help to reduce our need on those medication? I'm just asking.
So in terms of prescription medications, they are never intended to be long term. You know, if you read the inserts, these are temporary interventions. But many of us forget that. You should not be on a sleep medication for more than 6 months, a year. That is too long. But yet, many times, folks are on it for a lifetime. And do they work? They can be very useful to initiate sleep, but you never get into deep sleep. So the quality of sleep is poor. Folks sleep, but they don't get into deep sleep and REM sleep. And so they're not really getting the health benefits. So no, that is not the ultimate solution. It's just like a crutch. It's like a Band-Aid, but it doesn't fix anything. And I want folks to remember that when it comes to sleep, the decisions we make in the day affect how we sleep at night. And we often don't make that connection. How we eat, how much water we drink, how much exercise we get, how much of our anxieties we release throughout the day, that affects how we sleep at night. And so those things have to be addressed. Every single one of them has to be addressed if we want to get good, refreshing sleep.
Okay, Carlo, go ahead.
Dr. Kathy, it's good to see you after all these years.
Hi, Carlo.
Long time.
Very.
Yes, man. So I'm glad you're here, and especially glad you're talking on this subject of sleep, because it's been unfortunately a thing that I've wrestled with for a while. And I do have a question. I saw that the question was posed in the chat as to the 8 hours. Now, unfortunately, I joined late, so I don't know if you addressed it. But selfishly, I must ask, do you need the 8 hours, or can you operate like how the Japanese operate, the Japanese school children would operate, where they say, what is it, 4 to pass, 5 to fail? They have that saying. And I know that they have one of the highest teenage suicide rates in the world, or possibly the highest. But I'm just wondering, do you need the 8 hours, as people always like to say, or can you survive less?
Yes,
less?
I'm glad that you brought that up, because I did discuss that earlier, and I know that many folks, it didn't sit well with them because it's so hard to think of getting 8 hours. And yes, you know, in our society, we kind of put a badge of honor on when we can function on less sleep, but that is not how the body was designed to be at its peak performance. I would never recommend less than 7. 7 is the least. 7 to 9 hours is what an adult needs for optimal functioning. Now, many of us say, well, you know, I've just gotten used to 5 hours. I know many men and women who function on 5 hours of sleep every single day. And when I hear it, I feel very sad inside, because I know that they have, you know, they've kind of adjusted, but their body never really adapts. Meaning, yes, you can get through your day, but your reaction time, your judgment, your empathy, all those things are never at their highest, their best, when we are sleep deprived. And 5, if anybody listening to me today is a 5-hour a night person, I know lots of people like that, 5 hours and they're good to go. No. No, you know what? I've had folks, after they've listened to me and they said, okay, I'm gonna try this. I've had folks say to me, you know, after I actually slept 7 hours or 8 hours, things have changed. There's one gentleman that I work with closely. He has a very high level job, and he's always been a, you know, go-getter, like, you know, really hitting everything hard. And he realized that when he started sleeping more, he could actually remember people's names. Before, he would just think it was, I don't know, I can't remember names. But after he began to sleep more, he was like, hey, the names kept coming to him easier. Something as simple as that. His memory was heightened, and he did not know that he could remember people's names if he would just sleep more. Because he just thought that, that's just me. But he increased his memory, his functioning. And he hasn't lost anything from sleeping more. He's actually only gained. So I think it requires a whole mental shift, because our society does not value sleep. They say sleeping is for slackers. No, sleeping is for superheroes. That's how I want to redefine it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
You're
Carla.
welcome.
Kenny, I'm going to take your question, but there is a comment in the chat here from Paul Clark. Is 8 hours sleep the same if it starts at 9 o'clock or 12 o'clock? I am reasoning this question because it's very important to me. I have trained myself to go to bed around 11, 12 for over 40 years because I get up less at night to go to the bathroom. When the sun rises, I'm awake except for the alarm clock. So you got the question, Dr. Kathy?
Yeah. So what I can say is that if it's within your power and your ability to be in bed by 9, I would say retrain your body to go to bed earlier. Why do I say this? This is based on the circadian rhythm and the natural physiology of the human body. When you look at the circadian rhythm, at about 9 p.m. is when the body starts to release melatonin. Now, melatonin is a super, super important hormone that I don't want to miss of it, because melatonin, it just starts and it starts to rise and it peaks later in the night. But I want to catch every bit of it. You know why? Because melatonin helps with deeper sleep. It helps with weight control. It helps with as an antioxidant. Antioxidants you don't want to miss. Those are what help you fight the cancer. We don't want to come down with disease. When we come down with disease, we start to say, oh man, how did this happen to me? Now to fight disease. And melatonin is one super powered little molecule that helps to fight disease in your body. And if it starts to rise at 9, I want every drop of it. So that's why I used to go to bed at 10, because I was always told go to bed at 10, 2 hours before midnight, blah, blah, blah. But when I reviewed physiology, I said, hey, 9 o'clock is better because I get more melatonin. So I go to bed at 9 o'clock and I tell all my clients, all my patients, 9 o'clock is what the doctor ordered. That's what I'm telling you. Earlier is better. So I go to bed at 9 and I wake up at 5. And whatever I couldn't do at 9, I get it done in the morning. And that's just the way it has to be for me so that I can maintain health. Studies have shown that night shift workers have, no matter how healthy they try to be, exercise, eat right, sleep hours, in the day, as opposed to night, just by being a night shift worker, having your body not be able to follow its natural circadian rhythm, your health is equivalent to that of a diabetic. So you try your best to be healthy, but just by being up at night, you're at a disadvantage. And so folks say to me, well, I got to work at night. What can I do? And I always tell people, if you have to work at night, that's what you have to do. First of all, I always say, try to get a different shift. It will help with your health in the long term. But if you cannot get a different shift, if you have to work at night for years and years on end, at least follow rhythm. Have your body on a schedule. When it's time for you to go to sleep, go to sleep. When it's time to eat, eat. Don't be at a night shift worker and just kind of sleep whenever, eat whenever. Keep your body on a regular schedule. That will help you the most. But the best thing you can do is go for a different shift. That will be best for your health.
So Dr. Kathy, with that being said, we would have doctors like you, because many of you doctors, the night shift is what build your careers, in that you had to do these things at nights. So are you saying, and you said earlier, you intimated earlier that internists are susceptible to many mistakes in reading medical records. Um, how then can we have faith and confidence in our doctors if they're susceptible to reading our medical records and getting it wrong?
Pray,
Yes,
pray that you don't get sick at night.
I definitely so point is well taken. Somebody has to work at night. Yes. Things still have to happen. We still need police and keeping us, our communities with some protection. We still need firemen on call. We still need doctors and nurses. Somebody has to work at night. I definitely agree with you. But one thing I'm going to say is I believe that when you have to work at night, you're making a great sacrifice and you have to be aware of that. And so you make a decision that you are sacrificing your health, and some of us have to do that. If the opportunity arises where you can now stop doing that and allow somebody else the opportunity, take it and run because we know that your health is compromised when you do the night shift. So I know of many people who they've been on the night shift for a long time and they're now they put their time in and they now have the option to go to the day shift, but they would rather stay with the night shift for various lifestyle conveniences than switch. What I'm saying to those folks is if you get the opportunity, take the day shift and run because your health will be much better off in the long run if you don't do the night shift for a very long time. And we have seen for many years that doctors making mistakes is heightened with lack of sleep. And so changes have been made. Now they're having even shorter shifts. There are rules in place that interns can't work more than certain hours, and that you don't do the night shift for longer than a certain amount of time. Before we did the night shift for like a whole 30 days. Now you can't do like more than 2 days in a row. So there are many changes that have happened because we have seen the downside of the night shift work in medicine.
Okay, Dr. Holness, you're next. Go ahead.
Hey, yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Doc. Really appreciate it. My wife had done a lecture on sleep and she had made a lot of the same comments. And this was around the time of the pandemic. And we really, you really underestimate sleep. So when Marcel had asked a question about sleep, and I think one of the things we have to look at is make sure, and I do it with my patients too, is you have to always look at the root cause. A lot of times in medicine, we treat the symptoms and we don't really treat the cause. So when Marcel mentioned about there are millions and billions of dollars used on sleep aids, what I use with my patients, I ask them, try to work with them to find what is the cause of your lack of sleep, initiating sleep or maintaining sleep. So, Doc mentioned alcohol. Caffeine, are you using that during the day to stay up and you're having a hard time going to bed? Depression, anxiety. Major thing is stress. And I think that was the point that my wife was trying to make from that article is we know stress and its relation to insulin resistance and increasing your risk for metabolic syndromes and that sort of thing. But stress, so how are we stressing the body? Are we stressing it with exercise in a good way? Or are we stressing it with being stressed out by my children or by my wife or on my job? So some of those things. So the other causes is looking at how my job, Doc mentioned, how is your job affecting your sleep? Because that could be a problem. How is light and late night shows and staying up late affecting my sleep or not going to sleep? And some of my patients, I take care of veterans in the VA, pain is a major thing that keeps them up at night, so that's why they want to take pain medications. But what we're trying to move now in the VA is to more of a whole health type program where you're looking at what is the cause of the pain and are there other natural or alternatives that we can use to help with the pain instead of depending on pain medications and narcotics. So, but thank you very much, Doc. Really appreciate it. This is a much timely lecture. I did put in a question later on, Marcel. You were talking about the circadian rhythm, and my question was, Doc, is that SCN is it fixed at the 9 o'clock, or with the people who work late and work the graveyard shift, does that circadian rhythm kind of shift with their times and when they sleep? That was one thing I was thinking.
I believe that if they're having to be up with lots of light exposure, I guess it would potentially, it could shift a little, but I'm almost sure that there would be a decreased melatonin surge, just a shorter time frame for it, because by 7:30 when melatonin shuts down, the sun is coming up, and unless you come in a really dark room at 7, they would have to be very conscious of light and dark to be able to shift it and manipulate that very carefully. Yeah, that's what I believe.
Eddie?
Yes.
Go ahead.
All right. I just wanted to make a comment, I guess. First of all, thank you so much, Doc. You have shared so much information that is so important. What I wanted to throw out there was people have a question about going to bed at a certain time before 12 o'clock. There are certain things that happen physiologically to our body that only happen before 12 o'clock. And after 12 o'clock, you no longer get those benefits. And I try to stress that to my patients, that you can't get some things if you go to bed later than 12 o'clock. Your body changes gears to wake you up at 12 o'clock. So you can't get the benefit, just like you said, you can't get all the melatonin that you need if you're not in bed at 9 o'clock. So getting to bed earlier has so many physiological benefits that are there.
Thank you. Yes, I agree. I agree. Somebody asked in the chat, does getting enough sleep affect sexual function and impotence? And given our audience, that's a very important question that we certainly should answer.
So, doctor, you've also given us another benefit of the bed.
Of course, yeah. You know, in the bed, you are allowed to do two things. Two things. That's very important. And it's very important for men when it comes to their sexual performance and issues with impotence. And I will say that the pillars of health are all connected. And so when it comes to following or to adapting to all of them, they will affect how we function in every facet of our life. So yes, if we get adequate sleep, we will more than likely have better blood flow to the right places and better erections and better functioning. And if that will get you to bed, hey, go to bed on time for better performance.
So doctor, then how will that affect the disturbance of sleep?
Well, just make sure it's before 9 o'clock.
Welcome to FriendsTalking.
Yeah.
In the chat, Tanya and Israel had mentioned something about hops. Is it okay to have hops, the same hops found in Malta, the beverage? Hops is not then a stimulant. That's not where we get the phrase hopped up on drugs or caffeine or such. We have hops safely then. Question. Is that the same hops that is used to brew beer?
Okay, so Malta is made from barley, hops. It has corn and caramel color. Hops is a herb.
Hops is an herb that.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
It is an herb that does promote rest and relaxation. That is used very often by lifestyle physicians that I've spoken to. It has strong properties for helping the person to relax.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that may be different. I think the hops in Malta would be a grain verse, but I'm just checking here because the hops that I'm talking about is a herb.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and the one in Malta may be a grain.
Okay. Yeah. That's a reasonable explanation.
Yeah.
While you're doing that, Doctor, I'm going to take Len and then Carlo. Len, you want to go ahead, Dr. McCallum?
Yeah, I have two comments. The first one, I'm an optometrist, and one of the things that we realize is people who don't get adequate sleep don't produce quality tears, so they tend to have dry eye. And
Wow.
It's a problem. It's a chronic problem. So you can add that to your slides next time you do this type of presentation. It does make a difference for dry eyes.
Look at that.
Yeah. Secondly, I can, from personal experience, I was having a situation where my dad was very sick a year before he passed. And I was getting about 6 hours sleep a night, I should say. And it turns out I was getting up early, running in the morning, doing 3 miles. I started having trouble with my heart, irregular beats. So I went to a cardiologist. They checked everything out. They couldn't find anything wrong, but they could find that I was missing a beat. So they tried all kinds of things, niacin, and tried all things. And then something occurred to me. Why don't you, I wonder if this is related to sleep. So I purposely slept 7 hours and longer. And it went away immediately. I said, nah, that's anecdotal. So I went back to doing what I did again. 6 hours, it came back within a day or two. I tried it 3 times. I stopped each time, it went away immediately with it. And so I realized my body cannot do that. So I have to get 7 to 7.5 hours sleep every single day. I probably should be getting more, but at least I have to have that, or I have an irregular heartbeat.
Wow, that's a powerful testimony. That sums up my whole talk in one testimony. We don't realize what is happening to us when we do not get sufficient sleep. We are so convinced that we are getting through the day, we're functioning, but if we don't follow God's pillars of health, something is going to fall apart. That's just how he made us. And when we adapt to what he tells us, we are riding high the way he intends for us. Thank you for that testimony. I really, really appreciate that.
So, Dr. Kathy, is it possible that we could be in the bed for 7 to 8 hours and thinking that we're sleeping for that time, but we're not getting the quality REM sleep? Talk to us about this REM sleep. Is it REM sleep continuous for 8 hours? Is it only for a few hours of the 8 hours? Because some of us may go to bed on time, but we are not resting for the period of time that we're in bed. We're in bed, but not resting and getting that deep sleep, going into the dreams and all of those things that that helps us to grow. Enlighten us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Very good point. So we don't stay in stage 4 deep sleep or REM for the whole night. No, we're just in there for less than half of our sleeping time. We go through stage 1 all the way to 4 in REM sleep throughout the night, and it repeats itself as we're sleeping. But some of us never make it to deep sleep or to REM, and that is a problem. Yes. If we wake up and we are not, when you wake up, you should feel like you just slept. You should feel refreshed and ready to take on the day. When we wake up and we're tired, even though we've been in bed for 8 hours, there's a problem. And we need to get that investigated. And we will have to start to look at the various factors that affect sleep, like the ones I spoke about, or diet. What are we eating? Or exercise level, or water intake, or stress level, and how are we managing that? We have to look at all these things to see how they could be affecting our sleep. And if we can't come to any solution, then you may want to consider a sleep study. A sleep study can be very helpful to look at your overall sleep and see what's actually happening when you're in the bed for 8 hours. I had a very motivated client once who he did everything right. He ate the way I told him to eat. He exercised every day. Very high performance, motivated gentleman. He was in bed 8 hours a night, and because I always check that, and he was doing that, and he was still having his symptoms. They were not getting much better. And then he did a sleep study, and it came to light that he was having sleep apnea. And even though he was wearing a mouthpiece or some kind of a dental block that his dentist gave him, that was not allowing him to get into proper sleep, get adequate oxygenation. When he switched back to his CPAP machine, then it was like all his symptoms got better. He was not getting proper sleep. So yeah, we have to start with the basics. And when the basics aren't cutting it, then we need to really involve our providers for a little bit higher tech investigation to see why am I not sleeping when I go to bed.
Okay, Carlo?
Hi there. Another question I have. I don't know if it was addressed. Is there any correlation between sleep and the ability to increase one's metabolic rate? Because as you know, as you get older, your metabolism slows down, and unfortunately, for most of us, that many times means putting on of weight. And let's just say I'm trying not to look pregnant these days. So trying to figure out if there's anything that may be sleep related that would help in that regard.
Go to bed early.
Not an option.
Well, Carla, first of all, I have to say you have not aged. You must be ageless because you don't look a day older than the last time I saw you 20, 30 years ago.
Credit that to the iPhone camera.
Oh my goodness. But yes, sleep does help to control weight. And that's one of the things that I mentioned earlier in the talk. And I'm glad that you bring it up so we can re-emphasize that. Because in our culture, more than half of us are overweight or obese. And so we really need to use everything to our advantage to keep our weight under control. And when we sleep, we have a higher release of leptin and human growth hormone and melatonin. And all those three help with controlling our metabolism or weight and how we manufacture and break down fat. Leptin helps to suppress the appetite. Human growth hormone helps with burning fat. And melatonin helps with also with appetite and fat metabolism. So yeah, sleep, I'm telling you, sleep does it. It will keep that six-pack more, you can hold on to your six-pack longer if you go to bed on time and sleep your 8 hours.
So Dr. Kathy, you alluded to it earlier. And we're a group of men, and many of us in this group, maybe, I don't know for a fact, but if the statistics are to be true, at least a percentage of us here would be facing these circumstances, where impotence is an issue, where they have to be popping that blue pill in order to help. What is the correlation between impotence and lack of sleep, or impotence and even if you're getting sufficient sleep? Are there other factors that may affect that?
Yes, sure. So certainly impotence is a very important issue when it comes to the overall well-being of men and women. It affects both the men and the woman, but certainly it affects males when it comes to not only the physical act, but psychologically, emotionally, it's a difficult place. And so we need to be able to look at everything possible to help to correct that. I think if we go back to looking at the physiology of just the sexual organ, that can be very helpful. You know, when it comes to having an erection, blood flow is key. We need blood flow. We need the blood to get in the right place at the right time and do to allow the proper function that we want. And talking about blood flow, we want to think about vessels, how vessels dilate. Can they hold all that blood? Can the vessels dilate to take the blood? And we know that certain simple things like diet plays a major role. And I hope somebody already discussed diet when it comes to impotence with Friends Talking. Has that been discussed before?
Not you're welcome to come back to do that.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I'm going to recommend a certain movie to everybody who is listening to my voice right now. There's a movie called Game Changers. Game Changers. Amazing, amazing movie. I love it. I think every man should watch it because it shows you the power of food.
One meal.
Yeah, yes. Yes, Dr. Goodman, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The power of food and the blood flow that's required to sustain that erection. If men eat the right food on a regular basis, that will make the blood surge and can reverse so much impotence that doesn't have to happen. Also, adequate and just I don't want to leave you hanging.
Yes,
but
thank you. I was
get
going to ask
game.
you for some of those foods.
Well, let me tell you, it is in the realm of a whole food plant-based diet. I'm telling you, that diet is my prescription constantly. Whole food, plant-based diet. That cleans out the vessels. It makes the blood flow so easily. It's not clogged up and congested. And you can have the blood rush to where you need it at the right time. And they show you in that movie the people who have experienced it firsthand that when they eat the right food, the flag stands up. There is no limping or whimpering. Things stand up the way they should. So food plays a big role. Water, we cannot be dehydrated. Dehydration causes vasoconstriction. Vasoconstriction leads to decreased blood where you need it, when you want it. These things, they sound so easy. But I'm telling you, as people of faith, we know that we have a designer that wants us to flourish in every way possible. And so he created us and gave us everything we need so we could thrive. So the right food, the right amount of water, the right amount of exercise, increased blood flow, the right amount of sleep. Yes, it's all connected. The sleep does increase the way we have vasodilation and constriction. It affects the way the blood vessels respond, and they all work together. You don't have any one solution. You know, when folks say, oh, this one herb is going to fix every problem you have, I never go with those strategies. One herb, one pill, one food can't fix everything, because our designer gave us a complete package of what we need to thrive. And it's a perfect diet, whole food, plant-based, right amount of water, exercise, sleep, stress management, all of that. And you'll find that many of our problems with impotence and other lifestyle diseases will improve.
Dr. Hollis, I see your hand, but Dr. Kathy, I'm going to push you a little bit because even though it's a men's forum, many of us have wives, and our wives may have certain complications as it pertains to what you're referring to. What are your advice to us as men for our wives who are experiencing or having such challenges sexually and other health challenges that impacts the whole process of procreation?
Yeah. Yeah, it can it can get so it can seem so complicated and complex. I agree, because it's not just the male with the ability, but the male needs a partner who has the ability also. And if the wife, the woman is having her own issues, things don't flow as smoothly. But one thing I'll say is the prescription that God has given to men, he's given to women. And so when we as women are able to adhere to his basic principles of health, it helps us also receive what God has given to us, receive what our husbands have for us. And so it can work in union and harmony. I find that with women, a lot of times, the things that we carry here affect how we function all throughout our body. And so if we are completely stressed out, overloaded, depressed, anxious, it's very hard for us to function at the same level as our partners. And so we have to, as men, realize that one of the principles of health is also temperance. Is our partner, is our wife just doing too much? If she's doing too much all day, how can she function at night with you? She's just overwhelmed. So we have to help our partners or wives instill temperance as one. And temperance is an old term. It just means balance. It just means, shedding certain things, not doing so much, not stressing, not worrying. It comes into play with the diet, the water, the exercise. We have to really have our minds in a place where we cannot be so stressed, worried, and anxious. That's a big part of our problem. I don't know if you guys stress and worry like we do, but it really affects how we function in the bedroom with our partners also.
Dr. Holness? Kenny?
Yeah, I was just thinking while she was doing her lecture and just the past few minutes, the importance of sleep and memory. There was an article that came out in National Geographic about a few years ago, about 3 years ago. It talked about, it was all on the science of sleep. And there was a study that they were looking at with veterans dealing with PTSD and the trauma that they deal with in their harrowing missions. And so one of the things that they were thinking about is doing a program that if a veteran comes from a traumatic experience or traumatic mission, to have them not sleep initially when they come back, because sleeping, when you're awake, that's when you're doing a lot of the recording, but when you're sleeping, that's when the brain is doing a lot of the editing and consolidating memory. So it is so important for sleep and memory. And I can see now why we start to have a lot of problems with short-term memory loss and cognitive impairment, and we're seeing more and more about it. And sleeping is such an important part of that puzzle with respect to memory. Gupta came out with a book just recently that's focused on memory loss, and he's a neurosurgeon and talking about the brain, and we're all looking for different reasons or different ways to improve our memory. But Doc brought up about sleep, and we don't really focus on it, but sleeping is key when it comes to memory.
I agree.
Good, thank you. Dr. McCullough?
Yeah, I noticed, Kenny, that you don't notice the black hands as easily as you do the white ones.
Maybe I need to come and see me in order to change the glasses.
I have a comment and a question. My comment is about the blue light. That's, again, my field. Visible blue light, we have known for years, disruptive to many things. And sleep especially is one of them. And so now that we have our phones, we have our devices, we have computers, we have LED lights, all of these things emit visible blue light. Most people don't realize LED lights also emit visible blue light. So what we're finding, a lot of people are having problems now with their eyes, with computers, their eyes are burning, they're complaining about it. And part of the reason is because of the exposure, they're getting much more exposure than they have had in years. So this goes along well with what you're saying. And it's just one more thing that adds to a disruption of our sleep cycle. Now, my question was about melatonin. If I travel, let's say I fly to California to see my son and his family, and I get jet lag, should I take melatonin like an hour before I go to sleep, or how early should I take it? Do you recommend that?
Yes, so that's a good question. Yes, so I believe you can take it when you have arrived and you are about to go to sleep. You can take it a little before that. I believe that would be a good way to take it. Yes, and that's where it's proven to be the most effective with jet lag. I know lots of folks take it every night to sleep, and that's not what it really is intended for. It's most useful for jet lag.
Thank you.
So, Dr. McCullough, Carla, I think, has the wrong color hand. So we'll take Carla now.
For the record, my hand is not white; it's yellow, so I might be Asian. Anyway, Dr. McCullough raised a point which has me a little confused. He mentioned about LED lighting. Is it that LED lights are not advisable? Well, I don't know. Can you probably tell me how that works? Because that suggests that I need to go and change the bulbs in my house.
No, just turn them off.
And go back my toe. Oh, okay. All right.
Doctor Kathy?
Oh no, I thought Dr. Len was going to answer that one.
I can answer a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, LED lights definitely give off more visible blue light than any other lights that we've had developed prior to this. Yes, it can be disruptive, but I think our being on our devices are probably even more disruptive than the light itself. And if we go to bed earlier, I think we negate some of that, because the earlier we go to bed, the less, the fewer hours we are exposed to it. So I think that going to bed sooner will be a benefit. Yes, LED lights save us so much money, so much more, that many people, or maybe perhaps in a room like a bedroom where you're going to be, then you put a regular bulb, or just before you go to bed, or sometime before.
Doc, you're not helping my pocket at all,
He's trying to. Dr. Len, I see your wife beside you, Dr. McCullough, and she is a psychologist. We have had her here on Friends Talking. And Dr. McCullough, I'm going to include you in the conversation. From your experience, as to what you heard from Dr. Kathy today, how does that relate to you in your field? And how does that help you with, and how does that affect the clients that you see on a day-to-day basis as it pertains to sleep?
Well, my clients right now are majority female.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always been, it's just that right now it is. And a lot of them are menopausal or perimenopausal, and a lot of them have trouble with sleep. And that's something I wanted to ask Dr. Kathy about. Their question to me is, does it get better? And since I'm a woman in menopause, I was like, not yet. So I want to know, because sleep is definitely a problem. I mean, we do all the sleep strategies and we do everything with them. People's sleep have improved, but I think it's not ideally where it needs to be. A lot of people, I would say more than half of my patients have trouble with sleep. Mm-hmm. So I want to know, especially for the women, does it get better post-menopause?
Okay, so thank you for that point. That's so important. I always, I really and you can tell by now, I just love God's prescription. It just blows me away every time I think about the fact that when God gives us all of these fundamentals for health, they all work together perfectly. When it comes to women and menopause, yes, that can disrupt the sleep, but that's when I find that's when they're going through menopause with a lot of side effects, and they're not going through it smoothly and easily. In different cultures, like in Asian cultures, in China, Japan, different Asian cultures, there is no word for menopause because they don't have those horrible side effects or horrible symptoms that many of us in the Western culture get. Now, why is that? When they've looked at their differences in lifestyle, they found that maybe their diet could play a big role in their lack of symptoms as they go through the change of life. And we found that the biggest possibility could be their increased levels of phytoestrogens. They eat a lot of food with phytoestrogens in there, a lot of tofu, soya beans, edamame. It's just a heavy diet with that. And when you look at how phytoestrogens work, the science of these pseudoestrogens, they're actually very helpful to stay off the side effects or the symptoms, I shouldn't say side effects, the symptoms of menopause. Because, and this takes a lot of looking into, and I have delved into it and I finally can understand it. And the estrogen or the pseudoestrogen or the phytoestrogens you find in soy products, they act by almost bumping off they help to minimize the effects of our estrogen. So they're almost like going to the estrogen receptor and and they're a weaker binding estrogen, and they don't allow our estrogen to kind of cause so much havoc. So, I mean, it's a much deeper science than that, but those phytoestrogens have been shown to help stay off the symptoms of menopause. And I know quite a few women who are whole food plant-based, kind of just sail through menopause without not even one extra drop of sweat. And I'm praying that's going to happen to me because that's what I'm preaching and that's what I'm holding on to. But like my mom, you know, when you stick to a whole food plant-based diet, you really don't have to experience those symptoms. And so that may be something that some of your clients could try. You know, I really do believe in God's prescription, and I do believe that if we kind of take the whole package, we'll do a whole lot better.
But
I have actually been recommending to some of my clients to try a whole food plant-based diet because I have seen the benefit in me. And I always, you know, that's always the best thing when you can say, well, this is the result I've seen. And so people believe more strongly than just, well, this is the study that I read about. When it's you, they take it more to heart.
That's awesome. And then with the whole food plant-based diet, they should try to increase their soy intake, their phytoestrogen intake. And as I tell people to take more soy, I tell them to use the best kind, to use soy that is non-GMO, that is organic, read the labels, and try to be as unprocessed as possible. And as they increase this, I mean, there are certain proportions that they can increase to. I don't remember the exact proportions, but I would say have it almost every day, really increase it. And you don't have to be afraid of breast cancer. I mean, the American Cancer Society says now that if you are a breast cancer survivor, have soy. And I know this is not a women's forum, but
almost everybody has wives that they mentioned. They need to share this information with their wives. That's why I mentioned it.
So Dr. Kathy, what we have done, we have opened up the forum today so that our wives and our women folk can hear this information firsthand, rather than us trying to tell them all this science after we're done, which for many of us is just. So when they hear it from someone like you, then hopefully they'll appreciate the science behind it, and also the spiritual aspect behind it also, because I know of women who are going through their menopause, and they're having such difficulty sleeping there because they're sweating, they can't concentrate in the days because they're hot. It just seems to be a miserable existence. So whatever we can do as husbands and brothers and boyfriends and whoever to help our female companions, then it's worth it.
Yes, and that will help with the sex too, which I know is very important to you guys.
Oh, come on, tell us more now then. Uh, you know, when you mentioned that to a group of men, you pique their interests.
I know. That's how God
We know what's
designed our
important
men.
to us.
Well, Dr. Kathy, it's interesting because last year we had Dr. Kenny arranged for us to have an exercise program, and one of our esteemed friends here, Dr. Carrington, came back and was reporting to us the increased vitality of the help that the exercise program gave him personally, and it's an amazing experience that there is that association between exercise, the diet, and the effects of and the benefits in other areas of our health.
Hey, Marcel.
Yes.
I think also what also contributed to that was he also started exercising with his wife. So I think the bonding there kind of also helped too.
Okay. All right. Dr. Kathy, any other comments? Any other questions?
No, somebody asked in the chat if somebody can't have soy, what other ways can they get phytoestrogens? And then I saw Dr. Goodman mention that dried beans, mung beans, chickpeas, different beans have phytoestrogens, so that can be useful. But I'm telling you guys, God's food. I could talk about this all night long. God's food is amazing. It's miraculous, and He wants us in the best health. And I want to say it's not easy going to bed on time. It's not. I'm not gonna make it seem like it's just so. It requires like every ounce of your willpower to go to bed on time, especially if you're not used to it. But what I want to encourage everyone here listening is the fact that know that you will have gains if you do it, and just start slowly. If you go to bed right now at 1 a.m., try to go to bed at 12:30. If you go to bed at midnight, try to go to bed at 11:30. Try in just little increments. Behavior change happens best when you do it incrementally, instead of just trying to jump all in and then feeling so frustrated. But you can do it. I know you can. Go slowly, take your time, don't give up. Know that the best for you is yet to come if we just go to bed on time and get our sleep.
All right, Dr. Kathy, I'm going to take one more comment, and I'm going to ask these individuals because they've been making quite a lot of uproar in the chat. Tanya and Israel, we didn't get a chance to address many of the questions or comments that you have. Would you care to ask your question or your most pressing question or comment to Dr. Kathy? Tanya and Israel?
Hi, good afternoon.
Yes.
I would focus on the question relating to the legumes. If you can't have peas and beans, what would you do in their stead?
Okay, so I'd love to ask, can you tell me what is the reason that this person cannot have legumes and beans?
G6pd deficiency.
Okay, all right. So as far as I know, I don't believe every bean falls into that category with G6pd deficiency, but I may not be accurate. That I have to review some more. I thought certain beans were worse than others. But if somebody can't have beans and legumes, flax seeds and other seeds do have some phytoestrogens in there, and they have other super properties like the omegas. So they would use more flax seeds and berries. Oh, thank you, Dr. Goodman. I see you're typing some stuff. But yes, yeah, they could use those instead. Flax seeds would be useful.
Then the follow-up question would be, what is your take on soaking and sprouting and what's that other thing? I can't recall what it is, but what's your take on ingesting nuts and grains and seeds?
Yeah. So I think it's important for us to soak or nuts, grains, and seeds. That's a very good point. Because they do have certain properties in them that can be minimized when we soak them and allow them to decrease certain lectins and properties that will decrease the binding of iron and other minerals. So it is better if we soak them, and if we can even have them sprout a little bit, we'll get more of the nutritional properties. So, and that's usually for like the more advanced nutritional folks who really want to get the most power out of their food. Usually with beginners, I try to get them to just focus more on a whole food plant-based diet, getting off of processed food, eliminating junk food, eliminating dairy. Those are the basics. And then when you get past that, then yes, it is certainly a benefit to soak your foods, to soak your grains, nuts, seeds, and if you can sprout, you get much better nutritional benefit by decreasing lectins and other anti-nutrients. But they're still the best food, in my opinion, whether or not you are able to soak them.
And the last question, because I won't have the time, fermentation. It sounds like an unclean word. Is that anywhere in the picture whatsoever?
Is that anywhere in the
picture, health-wise, from our perspective? Because persons seem to be pushing for fermentation of those seeds and nuts and grains.
Yeah. So as a faith-based community, we have not been given much counsel on, well, fermentation is not deemed as necessary or a health benefit. But in the more worldly view, that's been pushed a lot. Fermentation, fermented foods like cabbages, sauerkrauts, other foods to help with the gut microbiome, to help with how or gut bugs work. And, you know, it may play a role. I'm not completely against fermented foods personally, but I do believe that if we follow God's prescription of having a whole food plant-based diet and doing the basics that he tells us, our gut bugs are going to change and our gut bugs will be happier and we'll have a better gut microbiome, and we may not need to go to fermentation. So right now, I'm not an expert on the fermentation philosophy. You know, I know as Adventists, we don't usually push that. And so I'm not pushing that now, but I think a whole food plant-based diet is usually, you know, when you stick to really, you know, whole foods, unprocessed, our gut microbiome changes and becomes better for our health.
So, doctor, the fermented sugarcane is recommended, isn't it?
Boy.
I'm just struggling. It gives us.
You have to pray for him.
Uncle Ray and nephew.
I know, Uncle Ray. Yes. Yes.
All right, doctor, I'm going to give you the last word, the last summary, because we're up on the time. And I mean, it has taken me almost a year to get you, and I hope it will not take me another year to get you back here, because you certainly have whetted our appetite for more information, more knowledge, and we particularly would like to invite you back to explore more for us that plant-based diet.
Okay,
so give us your summary.
That, and again, don't forget that movie. It can be a movie night activity with yourself and your partner tonight. I watched it for free on, was it Hoopla? I got it from the library resource. You can get it on different platforms, Netflix, whatever. Game Changers.
Okay.
Every man on this and his partner should watch Game Changers tonight. I'm sorry. I watch it with my kids, and they have a thing they like to say. They have a plant-based penis. They work better. So
Okay.
this is great. But yes, I love and appreciate all of God's health instructions. They seem restrictive, and especially in this world that we live in where we are all so fast-paced, over-processed, so much to do. We don't have time to follow God's plan. But I'm telling you, if we just get ourselves unprocessed, not so fast-paced, and just take in what God has to give to us, we'll have no regrets. Yes, we're gonna be a little different, from the world. Why are you going to bed so early? Why are you eating all those greens? People are gonna look at us as if we're strange, but I'm telling you, when you start to feel the wonderful effects and the wonderful outcome of following God's plan, we won't even care about what anybody else has to say. So don't be afraid to be different. Don't be afraid to stand out, especially when you know that's what God is telling you to do. Really go to God and ask him for the strength to do what he's teaching you, because he's telling you stuff every day. You're learning stuff that he wants you to know. He wants you to know this for a reason. Ask him for the power and the strength. And do not give up until you're able to incorporate it into your life so you can glorify him with the short time you have on this earth.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kathy. On behalf of the men of Friends Talk, the men and women who are joining us today on Friends Talking, we want to thank you very much for enlightening our darkness. We were edified today, and we're looking forward to having you again, sharing these insights, these wonderful insights with us. And it would be good by the next time you come back that we can have some reports to give you of the benefits that we have derived as a consequence of implementing your prescription for us. Thank you very much, and we look forward to having you again. And may God continue to bless you in your ministry and in your work. God bless you.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Just before you go, we're going to have prayer. And Eddie, may I invite you to pray for us to close, please?
Sure thing. Let's bow our heads. Thank you, dear Lord, for the insightful, science-based presentation that was just given by our doctor. We pray that you will be with her as she continues to edify, to instruct and encourage. I thank you for the information that was given. May those who heard be willing to implement in a way that will be beneficial for us as well. Be with us as we continue into the remainder of our Sabbath hours, that it will be a blessing to us as well. This is my prayer in your name. Amen.
Amen. Okay, everyone, enjoy the rest of the Sabbath, and God bless you all, and see you next week. Have a great evening now. Bye-bye.